My shoulders ache as I push open our front door, the familiar strain of an 8-hour shift at the bookstore settling into my muscles. The moment I step inside, something in the air changes. The living room feels charged, heavy with an atmosphere I've learned to recognize since childhood. My mother stands in the center of the room, arms crossed, and my stomach drops before she even opens her mouth. "There you are." Her voice carries that razor edge I know too well. Jessica perches on the edge of the couch, lower lip trembling in a performance I've seen 1,000 times before. On the coffee table between them lies a crisp white letter, university letterhead clearly visible even from where I stand. My eyes catch fragments of words, academic dishonesty, and immediate expulsion. "This is your fault." Mom's voice cracks through the air like a whip. "You put too much pressure on Jessica. She had no choice but to cheat." I grip the doorframe, my mind struggling to process the absurdity of the accusation. Jessica, perfect Jessica, has been caught cheating on her finals. And somehow, standing in our dimly lit living room, I'm being blamed for it. "You're always showing off how perfect you are," Jessica chimes in, her voice wobbling. "I just wanted to be as good as you." The words hit me like a physical blow. My brain spins backward through time. 8-year-old me in the principal's office, Mom's fingers digging into my wrist as she blamed me for Jessica's stolen lunch money. The security footage later proved Jessica took it herself, but the apology never came. Christmas morning after Christmas morning, Jessica unwrapping designer handbags while I received secondhand coats with price tags still attached. "Jessica deserves nice things," Mom would say. "You don't need to be spoiled." Senior year floods back. 2 part-time jobs, saving every penny for a car, only for Mom to demand the money for Jessica's new laptop. Always Jessica, always my fault, always my sacrifice. Mom's nails dig into my arm now, dragging me back to the present. "This family has done everything for you, and this is how you repay us? You make Jessica feel like she'll never be good enough?" Something shifts inside me. 23 years of bending, breaking, accepting, and suddenly, I can't do it anymore. I pull my arm free, lifting my chin to meet her gaze. "I had nothing to do with this," I say, my voice shaking but firm. "Jessica cheated. That's on her." The silence that follows feels like the moment before a storm breaks. Mom's face contorts with fury as she snatches up the expulsion letter, thrusting it in my face. "You ungrateful brat!" The paper crumples in her grip. "You're the reason this family is falling apart." The words crack something inside me, something fundamental and irreparable. I look at my mother, really look at her, and for the first time, I see the truth. She doesn't see me as a daughter. I'm just a convenient scapegoat, a receptacle for every failure, every disappointment, every flaw she can't bear to acknowledge in her golden child. My eyes drift to Jessica. She watches in silence, not apologizing, not even pretending to be grateful for Mom's defense. Instead, there's an almost smug satisfaction in her expression. She knows she'll walk away from this unscathed, just like always. The weight of years presses down on my shoulders, heavier than any bookstore shift. If I stay, this will be my entire life. Always sacrificing, always invisible, always wrong. My gaze falls on the front door, just a few feet away. It's still open from when I walked in, showing a slice of the darkening sky beyond. That door represents everything I've never had. Freedom, uncertainty, the chance to live for myself. "What?" Mom scoffs, following my gaze. "You're leaving? You have nowhere to go. You'll be back in a week, begging for my help." I don't respond. Instead, I turn and walk to my bedroom, the smallest in the house, barely furnished. My hands move on autopilot, stuffing a duffel bag with essentials, a few changes of clothes, a worn notebook, the $60 in cash I've managed to hide from Mom's borrowing. Before I leave, my eyes catch on a photo frame. Me as a child, smiling, before I understood what this house would become. I take it with me. The night air hits my face as I step outside. It's cold, but somehow lighter than any breath I've taken in that house. Behind me, Mom's voice carries across the yard. Go ahead. Don't come crying to me when the world chews you up. I don't look back. If you were me, would you have left, even if you had nowhere to go? Mom's words chase me down the empty street. Asterisk. You'll come crawling back. You have nothing. No one. Asterisk. The night air wraps around me like a cold sheet, and my fingers clench tighter around the strap of my duffel bag. $60. A change of clothes. A photo I should have left behind. The weight of what I've done crashes over me in waves, each step carrying me further from everything I've ever known. The neighborhood stretches endless and dark ahead of me. Porch lights flicker on one by one, families settling in for dinner, for movie nights, for all the normal things that happen in normal homes. My chest tightens. Where do you go when home stops being home? I walk until my feet ache, until the residential streets give way to commercial districts. The hum of distant traffic mixes with the chirp of crickets, and still I walk. Pride keeps me from pulling out my phone, from scrolling through the short list of contacts who might let me crash on their couch. I'm not going to prove Mom right. Not tonight. 2 hours in, exhaustion hits like a physical blow. My shoulders slump as I spot the glowing sign of the 24-hour train station. Not safe, exactly, but shelter. Better than nothing. The fluorescent lights inside cast everything in a sickly yellow glow. A handful of people occupy the hard plastic seats, a woman clutching a garbage bag full of what looks like clothes. A man in a business suit passed out across 3 seats, someone muttering to themselves in the corner. I choose a spot near the vending machines, as far as possible from the muttering man. The tile floor sends cold seeping into my bones the moment I sit. My stomach growls, reminding me I haven't eaten since breakfast, but I keep the $60 tucked deep in my pocket. Who knows when I'll see money again? Sleep proves impossible. Every shuffling footstep jolts me awake. Every announcement over the crackling PA system sends my heart racing. The vending machines hum, an endless drone that sets my teeth on edge. By the time dawn creeps in through the grimy windows, my throat feels like sandpaper, and my head pounds with the kind of exhaustion that makes the world tilt sideways. A new wave of commuters flows in, their fresh clothes and coffee cups a stark reminder of how far I've fallen in just 12 hours. I catch my reflection in a window-wrinkled shirt, tangled hair, the kind of hollow-eyed look I used to see in homeless people, and think, how did they end up there? Asterisk. Now I know. One bad night. One moment of standing up for yourself. One realization that the devil you know is worse than the devil you don't. A single tear slips down my cheek before I can stop it. I swipe it away hard enough to leave my skin stinging. Crying won't help. Nothing will help except getting up, finding work, surviving. I force myself to my feet, muscles protesting after hours on the cold floor. If I don't find a job today, I won't make it through another night like this. The thought should terrify me, but instead, it settles in my chest like steel. I've spent 23 years surviving Margaret Sullivan's house. I'm not about to let the real world break me now. The morning passes in a blur of rejection. Every storefront, every help-wanted sign leads to the same response. We're not hiring. The fast food manager barely glances up from his phone, dismissing me with a wave. By noon, my legs shake with each step, and the gnawing in my stomach has turned to a constant ache. Then I spot Ida's small diner tucked between a laundromat and a pawn shop. The neon sign flickers weakly. Lopez's Home Cooking. Through the window, I watch a woman with steel gray hair tied back in a tight bun directing staff with sharp gestures. The bell chimes as I push open the door. The woman Marianne Lopez, according to her name tag, looks me up and down, taking in my wrinkled clothes and desperate expression. Ever washed dishes before? She asks, no preamble. I can learn. The kitchen air hits like a wall of heat. Grease coats every surface, and the mountain of dishes seems endless. By closing time, my fingers are raw and pruned, my back screaming. But when Marianne hands me $40 in cash, it feels like more than money. It feels like survival. That night, curled up in the same train station corner, I allow myself to check my college fund account at the ATM across the street. The account I've been saving since I was 14, working every summer job, every holiday shift. If there's anything left, maybe I could still balance. $0. My hands shake as I navigate through the transaction history. Multiple withdrawals, all under Margaret Sullivan's name. Designer clothes, concert tickets, private tutors for Jessica. The screen blurs as tears well up. She didn't just kick me out, she made sure I couldn't leave on my own terms. Made sure I'd have nothing. But something shifts in my chest, something harder than despair. If Margaret Sullivan could steal my future, I'll build a new one. Without her. Without any of them. Need more hours? Marianne asked the next morning, watching me scrub pots with mechanical precision. Yes. My friend owns a coffee shop. She needs help. You want in? I pause, sponge dripping suds onto my shoes. 2 jobs means twice the escape velocity. When can I start? The coffee shop is different customers instead of dishes, lattes instead of grease. My first real paycheck feels like victory, small but mine. Every dollar is a brick in the wall between me and Margaret Sullivan's voice in my head. Then I see it checking my remaining account balance at the end of the month. A transaction made in my name weeks after I left. Margaret Sullivan, still pulling strings, still using my identity like it belongs to her. I should be angry, should report it. But something colder takes root instead. Let her think she's won. Let her keep digging her own grave. One day, when I'm ready, all her fraud will come back to haunt her. And this time, I'll be the one watching her fall. My hands shake as I count out $1 bills on my threadbare mattress. 23, 24, 25. The bills are wrinkled and stained from 12-hour days split between Bean and Brew and Lopez Diner. I stuff them into a worn envelope, already knowing it's not enough for rent. The alarm on my phone blares at 4:15 a.m. Another day, another shift. I drag myself up, muscles screaming from yesterday's double. The mirror shows dark circles under my eyes that no amount of concealer can hide. But pride means nothing when you're one missed paycheck away from sleeping in your car. At Bean and Brew, I've mastered the art of becoming invisible. Head down, movements efficient, voice pleasant but forgettable. Until I'm not. Seriously? A woman in a cream-colored blazer sneers as I fumble her complicated drink order. Why do they even hire people who can't do their job properly? My cheeks burn, but I keep my expression neutral as I remake her drink. Inside, rage bubbles up like scalding milk in the steamer. I want to tell her about my cramping fingers from 8 hours of dishwashing yesterday. About choosing between dinner and bus fare. I said, sugar-free vanilla, she snaps, pushing the drink back across the counter. I remake it again, and again, and again. That night, I collapse onto my bed without bothering to change. The springs dig into my back through the thin mattress, but I'm too exhausted to care. As I turn my head, a familiar scent catches my attention, soft, soothing lavender. My eyes find the source, an old handmade candle tucked in the corner of my duffel bag, one of the few things I grabbed when I left. The scent pulls me back 12 years. Mom's kitchen, but on a rare day when she and Jessica were out. Me, carefully melting wax in an old pot, pouring it into mismatched jars from the recycling bin. The pure satisfaction of creating something beautiful from nothing. I sit up slowly, mind racing. My laptop is already open to my checking account, $212.47. Just enough for supplies. If it doesn't work, my finger hovers over the place order button. In my head, Mom's voice sneers, asterisk. You'll fail. You always do. Asterisk. I click. 3 days later, my tiny apartment fills with the warm scent of melting wax. I measure temperatures obsessively, test fragrances, adjust ratios. Each candle takes shape under my hand-simple mason jars, filled with carefully layered colors and scents that remind me of comfort, of home. Not the home I had, but the one I always wanted. The Etsy shop setup takes hours. I photograph each candle under the harsh fluorescent bathroom light, trying to make them look professional. The descriptions flow easier words about warmth, comfort, peace, things I'm still learning to find. Days pass. No sales. I refresh the page between customers at Bean and Brew during my breaks at the diner, before falling asleep at night. Nothing. The voice in my head that sounds like mom grows louder. What made you think anyone would want this? Asterisk? Thena notification. 1 candle. $12. I stare at the order confirmation until my vision blurs. It's barely enough to cover shipping, but it's something. It's proof. The validation lasts exactly 8 days. Then the reviews start. Poor quality. Arrived broken. Smells like chemicals. Worst purchase ever. Don't waste your money. Amateur hour. Get a real job. My stomach turns to ice as I read the usernames. Margaret's 1962. Jessica Love's 2 Shop. They found me. Later that night, I discover a Reddit thread. Jessica's username is unmistakable, mocking my pathetic little candle shop and reminding everyone that some people should know their place. The rage that fills me isn't hot like before. It's cold, crystalline. For the first time, I see the truth with perfect clarity. They don't just want me to stay down. They want to make sure I never get up. You look like you're plotting murder. I snap my head up from my phone to find Riley, my Bean and Brew coworker, watching me with concern. She's wiping down the counter after closing, her blue hair falling in her face. I'm fine, I say automatically. Yeah, and I'm the Queen of England. Riley leans against the counter. Spill. I hesitate, but something in her expression genuinely concerned rakes through my walls. The whole story spills out. The candles, the reviews, the sabotage. Instead of the pity I expect, Riley's eyes light up. Dude, you need to get on TikTok. Let me help. I'm good at this stuff. Before I can protest, she's pulling out her phone, arranging my sample candles on the clean counter. The light catches the glass, making the colors shimmer. Small businesses deserve support, she narrates, filming. Let's get this girl some orders. I watch her post it, certain nothing will come of it. Another dead end, another failure. I've never been more wrong. The next morning, my phone won't stop buzzing. 10,000 views, 20,000 views, 50,000 views. Orders flood my inbox. 50, 100, 200. Numbers I never dared to dream about. Then, buried in the avalanche of notifications, an email that makes my heart stop. From Brand Partnerships, Lux Aroma. Subject: Partnership, Opportunity. We love your work. Would you be interested in discussing a potential collaboration? Asterisk. My fingers hover over the keyboard as that old, familiar fear creeps in. What if Mom finds out? What if Jessica tries to take this away too? But something has changed. The voice in my head that sounds like Mom isn't the loudest anymore. My voice is. I click reply. The scent of lavender and sage fills my tiny home studio as I pour another batch of candles. My hands move with practiced precision, measuring and mixing while order notifications ping on my phone. 300 units to ship by Friday. 2 wholesale accounts pending approval. 1 brand collaboration meeting next week. I pause, letting the familiar piece of creation wash over me. Just 6 months ago, I was slinging lattes at Bean and Brew, my fingers perpetually sticky with caramel syrup. Now my hands smell of essential oils and success. Today's my last day. I had told my manager, handing over my apron. She'd hugged me tight, whispering, "Go get him," in my ear. That moment felt like stepping off a cliff, terrifying and exhilarating all at once. But my online orders had finally overtaken my cafe wages. It was time. Celine? Riley pokes her head through the studio doorway, waving her phone. You might want to see this. My stomach tightens at her tone. She hands me her phone, open to a local news article. The headline hits like a punch to the gut. Local family faces foreclosure after years of financial mismanagement. There's my childhood home in the grainy photo, the peeling yellow paint even more obvious in newsprint. The article mentions Margaret Sullivan by name, my mother, and details how she's 3 months behind on mortgage payments. My eyes catch on a quote from a neighbor. It's sad to see. That house used to be so well maintained, but ever since her older daughter left. I hand the phone back to Riley, my hands steady. I need to finish these orders. There's more. Riley's voice softens. Jessica dropped out, failed most of her classes last semester. The loans came due and she trails off, watching me carefully. I turn back to my work table, checking the temperature of my wax. Not my problem. But that night, as I'm packaging the last orders, my phone buzzes. Unknown number, but I recognize the area code. Home. My mother's voice crackles through the speaker before I can decline. Celine, honey. The familiar manipulation oozes through her words, but something's different. A tremor. Uncertainty. I miss you. Family should stick together. Your sister is struggling. We all are. We need you. I let the silence stretch, feeling the weight of 2 decades of guilt and obligation press against my chest. But it doesn't crush me anymore. I end the call without speaking. The texts from Jessica start flowing immediately. I know I was a bad sister. I was just jealous. You were always so much better than me. Please, Celine, I have nowhere else to go. I block both numbers and return to my work. The wax melts, the orders ship. My business grows. 3 days later, Riley bursts into the studio again. It's gone viral. She shows me a social media post from Mrs. Chen, our old next-door neighbor, the one who used to slip me extra cookies when I helped her with her garden, the one who saw everything. I watched that girl get blamed for things she didn't do her whole life, the post reads. Celine Sullivan was treated like a maid while Jessica Sullivan was worshipped. Now that Celine has a successful business, suddenly they miss her? Where was that love when she was working 3 jobs to survive? The comment section explodes with support. Old classmates emerge with their own stories. The truth about Jessica's academic cheating scandal resurfaces. Someone mentions how she used to steal other students' work. A former teacher confirms it. I watch it all unfold, with a strange detachment. The empire of lies my mother built around her golden child crumbles. Post by post, share by share, Jessica's name becomes toxic in professional circles. No one will hire her now. The next time my mother calls, she uses Jessica's phone to bypass the block. Her voice shakes. No superiority, no arrogance, just raw desperation. Please, she whispers, we have nothing left. Jessica's call comes an hour later, her words stumbling between sobs. I have nothing left. I was horrible to you, I know, but please, help me. I stand in my studio, surrounded by the business I built from nothing. The fresh batch of candles cools on the rack, their surfaces smooth and perfect. Orders wait to be shipped to customers who value my work. My bank account holds more money than my mother ever borrowed from me. The power has shifted. They know it. I know it. I pick up a candle, examining its flawless surface. For years, they controlled every aspect of my life. Now they need me to survive. The irony would be sweet if I could still taste it. But standing here, in the life I've built for myself, I realize I feel nothing for them at all. No anger, no satisfaction, no love. The bell above my shop door chimes. I look up to see 2 familiar figures step inside, my mother and Jessica, shadows of their former selves. Their designer clothes are gone, replaced by worn department store clearance. The makeup can't hide their exhaustion. My mother's eyes dart around the studio, calculating the value of everything she sees. Even now, she's looking for something to take. Celine, baby? Her voice drips with false sweetness. I know we've had our differences, but you're successful now. You can afford to help your family, right? Jessica steps forward, her hands twisting together. I'll do anything, please. I'll work for you. Just don't let me end up like this. I look at them. Really look at them. The women who made my childhood a prison. The mother who stole my future to fund her favorite daughter's failures. The sister who watched me break and smiled. They wait for my response. Desperate hope painted across their faces. They expect the old Celine, the one who would sacrifice everything to earn a scrap of their approval. But that Celine is gone. In her place stands a woman who built herself from the ashes they left behind. The candle in my hands has cooled completely now. I set it aside with the others, ready for shipping to someone who will appreciate its worth. No, I say simply, and turn back to my work. The clicking of my heels against polished marble echoes through the lobby as I approach my office. Through the glass walls, I spot them before they see me, Mom and Jessica, looking small and displaced among the sleek furniture and modern art pieces I've carefully selected. The expensive furnishings reflect the life they never imagined I'd have. Abstract paintings worth more than our old house, ergonomic chairs that cost more than Jessica's last semester of college, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a city that finally belongs to me. Jessica perches on the edge of a leather chair, her designer clothes from better days now wrinkled and worn. Her hollow cheeks and bitten nails tell a story of sleepless nights and mounting debts. Mom stands rigid beside her, hands clasped in a pose I recognize from countless parent-teacher conference-issuer concerned mother act. My stomach doesn't drop anymore when I see them. That's new. Celine, sweetheart. Mom's voice breaks as she spots me, tears welling up right on cue. Her hands tremble as she reaches toward me, a masterful performance of motherly remorse. We've made mistakes, I see that now, but we're still family. I let the silence stretch, watching as Jessica's fingers twist in her lap. She looks thinner now, her once perfect makeup slightly smudged, the designer bag at her feet a knockoff of last season's style. The golden child tarnished at last. Family helps each other, right? Jessica's voice wavers, but I catch the familiar manipulative undertone. She leans forward, desperation crackling beneath her practiced vulnerability. After everything, you wouldn't just abandon us, would you? The irony almost makes me laugh. Instead, I cross my arms, tilt my head, and ask the question that's been burning in my throat for years. Oh, but when I needed help, where were you? Mom flinches, as if I'd slapped her. Good. When I worked 2 jobs and still had to give Jessica my savings, where were you? Each word drops like ice into the pristine quiet of my lobby. When I had nowhere to sleep but a train station, where were you? When you stole my college fund? When you laughed as I struggled, where were you? We didn't know, Mom stammers, her performance cracking. The perfectly curated tears dry up as reality sets in. We thought you'd be fine on your own. A cold smile curves my lips. Well, you were right. I was fine. I am fine. And I did it without you. Jessica's face crumples, reality finally piercing her bubble of privilege. No education after the cheating scandal, no career prospects, no safety net. The golden child finally facing consequences. The truth of her situation reflects in the windows surrounding us is nothing now, and she knows it. I was a kid, Jessica's voice cracks. I didn't know any better. And now you're an adult, facing the consequences of your actions. I meet her gaze steadily. Welcome to the real world, Jessica. I reach into my desk drawer, pull out 2 bus tickets. They're one-way tickets back to our old town, the place Mom swore she'd never return to, where the streets are too narrow and the dreams too small. I lay them on the glass coffee table with precise movements. I won't leave you with nothing. Here's a way home. Take it or leave it. Jessica snatches up one ticket, rips it in half. Her hands shake with the same entitled rage that once made me feel so small. You think this is funny? You think you're better than us? No, Jessica. I straighten my blazer, smooth imaginary wrinkles. I know I'm better than you. Mom stares at the torn pieces of paper scattered across my pristine floor. She doesn't argue anymore, doesn't plead. She knows this is over. The city hums beyond my windows, a rhythm of success she'll never be part of. I take one last look at them, the mother who never saw me, the sister who never earned her crown. Years ago, their judgment could shatter me. Now, they look small, insignificant. Just 2 more failed attempts at manipulation in my carefully constructed world. I built this life without you, I say, turning toward my office. I think I'll keep living it without you. My heels click against marble again as I walk away. Behind me, I hear Jessica's ragged breathing, Mom's stifled sob. The sound of their desperation fades with each step. I don't look back. I've spent enough of my life looking back. Morning light streams through my floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long shadows across the bamboo floors of my apartment. I breathe in the rich aroma of freshly ground coffee beans, letting the quiet settle around me like a familiar blanket. No tension, no walking on eggshells, just peace. My phone buzzes with a notification. Another 5-star review for Lunar Lux candles. I scroll through the comments, a smile tugging at my lips as I read about how our signature scents have transformed people's faces. 3 years ago, I was mixing essential oils in my cramped studio apartment, praying I could sell enough to make rent. Now I have 15 employees, a warehouse in Brooklyn, and more orders than we can handle. I pause at my bedroom mirror, taking in my reflection. The dark circles that once haunted my eyes have faded. My shoulders no longer hunch with the weight of constant criticism. I look free. The drive to my old neighborhood feels surreal. Each familiar turn stirs memories I've long since buried, but they no longer have the power to wound. When I round the final corner, I almost don't recognize the house. The pristine lawn Margaret took such pride in has grown wild and unkempt. Paint peels from the shutters like dead skin, and a crooked for sale sign swings in the autumn breeze. I park across the street, studying the abandoned shell of my childhood prison. No cars in the driveway, no lights in the windows, just empty rooms holding the ghosts of arguments long past. Through a broken window, I can see the living room where I last stood my ground, the spot where I finally said no. A strange laugh bubbles up in my throat, not bitter, not haunted, just surprised. This place that once seemed so massive, so suffocating, now looks small and insignificant. Like a set from a play I no longer have to perform in. The community center downtown buzzes with afternoon energy as I push through the glass doors. In the main room, a group of young women gather around tables, some taking notes, others sharing stories. My mentorship program started small, just me and 2 others who'd escaped similar situations. Now we have 30 regular attendees. Maya sits in her usual corner, dark hair falling forward to hide her face. At 16, she reminds me so much of myself it aches. Her parents kicked her out last month for refusing to give up art school for the accounting degree they'd chosen. Now she crashes on friends' couches, working part-time at a diner, clinging to her dreams with both hands. How do you stop being afraid they'll come back? She asks when I sit beside her. Her voice trembles, but her eyes hold steady. That they'll find a way to hurt you again? I take her hand, feeling the slight tremor in her fingers. You don't have to stop being afraid. I tell her the truth I wish someone had given me. You just have to stop letting the fear control you. Walking through the center after our session ends, I think about the fundamental difference between us. Margaret spent her life tearing people down. Jessica took everything she could get, but I chose another way. Every time I help someone stand taller, every time I share what I've learned about survival and success, I feel a pride Margaret never knew, the kind that comes from lifting others up instead of crushing them. Later, standing on my balcony with the city lights spread out below me, I think about Margaret and Jessica, about the patterns they're still trapped in, the cycles they'll never break. I chose a different path. Every young woman I help find her strength. Every candle we ship with a handwritten note of encouragement. Every moment I choose kindness over bitterness. It's another step further from becoming them. The night air carries the faint scent of autumn, crisp and full of possibility. I whisper words I've finally come to believe. Some revenge doesn't require action, just success. I take a deep breath and let the past fade into the darkness below, where it belongs.
The late afternoon sun streams through the kitchen curtains, casting golden light across the granite countertop where I'm slicing vegetables for tonight's dinner. The warmth should be comforting, but the knot in my stomach tightens as Karen's perfectly manicured finger runs along the edge of my counter. Nora, there's dust everywhere. Her voice carries the familiar note of disappointment that's become the soundtrack of my home these past 3 months. I don't know how Mark survives in this disaster. I grip the knife harder, focusing on the steady rhythm of chopping rather than the woman inspecting my kitchen like it's a poorly maintained rental property instead of the home I've lovingly tended for 14 years. Through the window, I catch glimpses of Emma and Jacob racing through the sprinkler, their laughter a sharp contrast to the heaviness settling in my chest. Mark leans against the doorframe, scrolling through his phone, carefully avoiding eye contact. He's perfected this stance, lately physically present but emotionally vacant whenever his mother begins her daily inspection. The curtains need replacing, Karen adds, tugging at the fabric I hand, selected for its cheerful pattern. These are so dated. I wonder, briefly, when my mother-in-law's opinions became commands in my own kitchen. How we slid from Karen's visiting for the weekend to Karen's living in our guest room indefinitely without anyone consulting me. 3 months ago, when Frank passed away after 40 years of marriage, Mark had suggested his mother stay just until she finds her footing. She arrived with 4 suitcases for that weekend visit. Her apartment sits empty across town, yet here she stands, reorganizing my spice rack while criticizing my cooking techniques. "Mom, Nora knows what she's doing." Mark finally interjects, though his voice lacks conviction. He doesn't look up from his phone. "I'm just trying to help," Karen says, the practiced tremble in her voice activating Mark's instinct to soothe her rather than defend me. "Since I lost your father, keeping busy helps me cope." The vegetables blur as I blink back tears of frustration. This morning, like every morning lately, I woke to find my kitchen cabinets rearranged, laundry refolded in a way that communicates my inadequacy, and another family photo mysteriously replaced with one of Karen's choosing. "Dinner will be ready in 30 minutes, I say, forcing brightness into my voice for the children's sake as they tumble in from outside, dripping water onto the floor Karen just criticized. "Grandma!" Jacob rushes forward, leaving puddles in his wake. "Come see the fort we built." "In a minute, sweetie," Karen says, her voice transforming into honeyed warmth. "Let me help your mother first. She's struggling with dinner." "I'm not struggling with dinner. I'm struggling with her." Later, after the children are in bed, I slip into Emma's room to retrieve the history project we've been working on together. Tomorrow's presentation day, and I want to double-check her facts before morning. The folder isn't where she left it on her desk. A frantic search reveals it sitting neatly on her nightstand with noticeable changes handwriting that isn't Emma's has corrected several dates and rewritten entire sections. I noticed Emma's project needed help. Karen explains when I confront her in the hallway, voice low to avoid waking anyone. "The information was wrong. I fixed it." "That wasn't your place," I whisper, clutching the folder. "She worked hard on this. It's her project, not yours." "I'm just trying to help," Karen says, the familiar refrain that deflects all criticism. "You're busy, Nora. The children need someone with time for them." The implication lands like a slap. Before I can respond, Mark emerges from our bedroom, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "What's going on?" he asks, looking between us. "Your mother rewrote Emma's history project," I say, hoping finally for support. Karen's eyes fill with practiced tears. "I was just trying to help, Mark. The dates were all wrong. I didn't want her embarrassed at school." Mark sighs, running a hand through his hair. "Can we not do this tonight? Mom's just trying to help, Nora. She used to be a teacher, remember?" The betrayal feels physical, a hollowing out of my chest. I retreat to our bedroom without another word, laying Emma's project on my nightstand. Tomorrow I'll help her restore her original work before school. The next morning, I find my grandmother's cherished recipe cards in the kitchen trash, replaced by Karen's more organized system. Something snaps inside me as I rescue the yellowed cards, brushing coffee grounds from my grandmother's handwriting. That afternoon, I sit with Emma at the kitchen table, helping with fractions, when Karen walks in. I feel my daughter's attention shift immediately. "That's not how Mark learned it," Karen says, peering over our shoulders. "Let me show you the proper way, Emma." Emma looks up at her grandmother, then back at me, a flicker of doubt in her eyes that wasn't there before. The first seeds of undermining taking root. That night I write in my journal, how much more am I supposed to endure? The next morning, while Mark showers, I quietly return the family photos to their original places. Karen watches from the hallway, her jaw tightening as I methodically reclaim this small territory. Those photos are staying where they belong, I say quietly, meeting her gaze without flinching. Mark enters, hair still damp. What's going on? Karen's voice trembles with practiced vulnerability. I was just trying to help, Mark. Mark sighs heavily. Can't we all just get along? She's elderly, Nora. She's 64 and runs 5 miles every morning. When Mark turns away, Karen's lips curve into a smirk that disappears so quickly I almost doubt I saw it. Almost. Later, I stand in the bathroom, staring at my reflection while Karen's voice drifts up from downstairs, instructing my children on the right way to build with their Legos. A quiet voice inside me whispers, "This is your home, your family." I reach for my phone, a new determination in my eyes. I'm running late from work, the library having kept me an extra 20 minutes helping a college student with research materials. As I pull into our driveway, the familiar weight settles in my chest. Home doesn't feel like home anymore. The house is quiet when I enter, too quiet for a Thursday afternoon with 2 children. I set my bag down, listening. Karen's voice drifts from the kitchen, the conspiratorial tone she uses when she thinks I'm not around. I pause in the hallway, my hand still on the doorknob. Your mother doesn't understand what a real family needs, Karen says, her voice dripping with false sympathy. When I raised Mark, I made sure everything was perfect. Doesn't Mom love us enough? Jacob's small voice makes my heart crack. 8 years old and already doubting his mother's love because of the poison being poured into his ears. She tries, in her way. Karen sighs dramatically. Some women just aren't natural mothers. My hands shake with such fury I have to press them against the wall to steady myself. This isn't random criticism anymore. This is calculated destruction. Later that night, I start a new journal, different from my personal one. This one has dates, times, and exact quotes. Evidence. I write with such pressure the pen nearly tears through the page. The 12th of April, 4:15 p.m. Karen told children I don't understand what a real family needs and implied I don't love them enough. Said I'm not a natural mother. Children present, Emma and Jacob. I flip back through 3 weeks of entries. A pattern emerges. Karen never criticizes when Mark is present. Her commentary is strategic, aimed at undermining me when there are no adult witnesses. The next afternoon, I receive a call from Emma's school principal. Mrs. Stevens, I wanted to touch base about some concerns that have been raised. Principal Harmon says carefully. Concerns? My stomach tightens. Emma's grandmother mentioned some issues at home. She seemed quite worried about Emma's homework supervision and home environment. The fluorescent lights of our kitchen suddenly seem harsh, exposing a truth I've been avoiding. Karen isn't just annoying or grief-stricken, she's dangerous to my family. Mrs. Harmon, I managed to keep my voice steady. I appreciate your call. I wasn't aware of any concerns, and I'm Emma's primary homework supervisor. May I ask what specifically was mentioned? The principal's hesitation speaks volumes. Mrs. Stevens, this is awkward. Your mother-in-law implied there might be some neglect issues. That evening, when Mark gets home, I try again to make him see. She went to Emma's school, Mark. She told the principal I'm neglecting our children. Mark sighs, running a hand through his hair. I'm sure it wasn't like that, Nora. Mom's just concerned about the kids. She told Jacob I don't love him enough. My voice breaks. Your mother is poisoning our children against me, and you're letting it happen. You're being too sensitive. That's just Mom's way, he says. The familiar dismissal that feels like betrayal every time. She raised me and I turned out fine. Did you? I whisper. But he's already walking away. The next day, our neighbor Martha is working in her garden when Karen loudly critiques my flower beds. Nora never could keep up with the weeding, she announces, though the beds are nearly immaculate. Mark deserves a nicer view, poor man. Martha glances up, her eyes narrowing slightly. She says nothing, but I see recognition in her eyes. An hour later, Martha knocks on my door with a thermos of coffee. "Thought you might need this," she says, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. Once we're seated at the kitchen table, she reaches across and pats my hand. "My mother-in-law was just like yours. I see you, dear." The simple acknowledgement brings tears to my eyes. "No one believes me," I whisper. "I believe you," Martha says firmly, and I'm guessing she's careful about when and where she does it. For the first time in months, I don't feel crazy. That afternoon, I catch Karen going through my desk drawer where I keep financial papers and personal correspondence. "What are you doing?" I ask, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "I'm just helping organize your mess," she says without apology, not even bothering to close the drawer. When I tell Mark that evening, his response is predictable. "She means well, Nora. Don't make this bigger than it is." Later, I overhear Emma telling Jacob, "Grandma says Mom can't even keep her papers straight. That's why Dad handles all the money." It's not true we manage our finances together, but the realization hits me like a physical blow. I'm losing my children's respect and my own home. The next morning, I invite Martha for coffee when I know Karen will be holding court in the kitchen. As we sit down, Karen launches into a story about how she single-handedly saved Mark from my chaotic parenting style. Martha smiles sweetly. "My mother-in-law used to do the same thing," she says. "Always criticizing, always undermining. My Richard finally had to ask her to move out after she convinced our son I was an unfit mother." Karen's face tightens, eyes darting between us. For once, someone else witnesses her true nature. After Martha leaves, I feel less alone. That night, I make a decision. I slip into the living room while everyone sleeps, my heart pounding against my ribs. The small recording device fits perfectly behind a family photo one Karen hasn't yet replaced. My trembling fingers reveal my fear, but also my determination. Sometimes the truth needs witnesses, I whisper to myself. The red light blinks steadily as I walk away, a tiny beacon of hope in my occupied home. "I've decided to make it official," Karen announces, setting down her fork with a deliberate clink against fine China-me grandmother's, which she insisted on using for Sunday dinner. "I'm moving in permanently." The pot roast turns to sawdust in my mouth. Across the table, Emma and Jacob continue eating, unaware of the bomb that's just been dropped in our dining room. "Mark and I have discussed it," she continues, patting her lips with a napkin. "My house is just too much for me now." I turn to my husband, searching his face for confirmation of this discussion I was never part of. The flicker of surprise in his eyes tells me everything. "Mom, we haven't," he begins. "Oh, don't be modest, dear." Karen waves her hand dismissively. "You were so supportive when I mentioned it last week." I watch the confusion on Mark's face transform into reluctant agreement. It's like witnessing a master puppeteer at work, the slight tilt of her head, the carefully placed tremor in her voice, the practiced vulnerability that turns my husband from confused to compliant in seconds. "I just thought we'd talk about it as a family first," he finishes weakly. Karen's eyes meet mine across the candlelight, the triumph in them unmistakable. I hold her gaze steadily, refusing to look away first. Something about my calm reaction seems to unsettle her more than any protest would have. "Well," I say, reaching for the salt, "that's certainly news." Later that night, after the children are in bed, I sit cross-legged in our closet with my phone propped against a shoebox. The screen shows Karen methodically removing my sweaters from their shelves, skiing at their organization before refolding them her way. This is the third recording this week. I label the video with today's date and add it to my growing digital folder labeled simply Truth. Inside are dozens of files. Karen telling Jacob his mother doesn't understand what boys need. Karen informing Emma that your mother tries in her way. Karen on the phone with her friend Judith, describing me as completely overwhelmed and in over her head. The folder grows heavier with each passing day, like stones collected for some future reckoning. I don't know why you insist on wearing colors that wash you out. Karen's voice carries across the Johnsons' backyard barbecue. Heads turn briefly before neighbors pretend sudden interest in their paper plates. I feel the familiar heat crawling up my neck, but instead of shrinking or changing the subject, I meet her gaze directly. Thank you for your opinion, Karen. My voice is calm, measured. I don't elaborate or defend my coral blouse color Mark once said brings out the warmth in my eyes. I simply acknowledge her words and turn back to my conversation with Martha. Karen blinks rapidly, momentarily thrown by my lack of accommodation. From the corner of my eye, I catch Mark watching the exchange, a slight furrow between his brows. Something shifts in his expression, a flicker of recognition, perhaps, or the first crack in a long-held illusion. The barbecue continues, but Mark's attention keeps drifting our way. When Karen approaches again with a pointed comment about the potato salad I brought, "Store-bought would have been better than this texture, dear," Mark sets down his beer and steps between us. "Mom, that's enough." His voice is soft but firm. Nora worked hard on that salad. Karen's face registers shock before she recovers with a trembling lip. "I was just trying to help her improve. You used to appreciate my honesty, Mark." But instead of backing down, Mark places his hand on my shoulder. Her cooking doesn't need improving, and there's a difference between honesty and criticism. The barbecue chatter dims momentarily as neighbors pretend not to notice the exchange. David Johnson suddenly becomes very interested in adjusting the grill temperature, while his wife Cynthia asks a little too loudly about Jacob's baseball season. Mark's eyes meet mine, an apology in their depths. It's just a moment, just one small stand, but it feels like the first crack in a dam that's been holding back the truth for months. Later, as we load paper plates into the Johnsons' kitchen trash, Martha leans close. "Cynthia and David are coming by tomorrow," she whispers. "They've seen it too. You're not alone in this, Nora." The simple words nearly undo me. Not alone. After months of feeling like I'm losing my mind, the validation is almost too much to bear. True to her word, Martha arrives the next afternoon with Cynthia and David in tow, bearing a casserole and determined expressions. We gather in my kitchen while Karen is at her weekly hair appointment. "She did the same thing to the previous president of the garden club," Cynthia says, her normally quiet voice strengthened by purpose. "Criticized her arrangements until she stepped down. Then Karen took over." David nods, his weathered face serious. "My mother was like her. Always the victim, always the martyr. It doesn't stop unless someone stands up to it." Martha squeezes my hand across the table. "We've all seen how she talks to you, Nora. How she undermines you with the children." Their support wraps around me like a warm blanket, and for the first time in months, I feel my shoulders straighten with something more than determinate community. That evening, my sister Elaine arrives with 2 suitcases and a determined expression. "I'm staying until this is resolved," she announces, brushing past Karen's protests about not having space for guests. "I'm not a guest," Elaine replies, her voice honeyed steel. "I'm family." The children light up at their aunt's arrival, and for the first time in months, genuine laughter echoes through our home. As we prepare dinner together, Elaine whispers, "Lisa called Mark's brother. He says this is exactly what she did to their father for years. Criticized and manipulated until the poor man doubted his own mind." Another piece of the puzzle clicks into place. My phone rings that evening, Emma's teacher, Mrs. Winters. "I got your invitation," she says without preamble. "I'll be there. After what I've seen at the parent conferences." She pauses. "Children deserve to see healthy boundaries modeled, Mrs. Stevens. What you're doing matters." When I hang up, Jacob looks up from his homework. "Mom, is Grandma going to be mad at you forever?" I kneel beside him. This sweet boy with his father's eyes and my stubborn chin. Grandma isn't mad, honey. She's just used to things being a certain way. Sometimes adults need to learn new ways of treating each other. Like how you said I can't call Billy stupid even when he's wrong? I smile, running my hand through his hair. Exactly like that. I'm chopping vegetables for dinner when Karen enters the kitchen, her footsteps deliberately heavy to announce her presence. I brace myself for what's coming. You're cutting those all wrong, she begins, her voice carrying that familiar note of disappointment. The nutrients leak out when you chop them that way. Without looking up, I calmly reach for my phone on the counter and press record, turning the screen so she can see the red light blinking. Please repeat that, Karen. I want to make sure I understand your concern about the vegetables. She freezes, mouth half open, eyes fixed on the phone. For the first time since she arrived with her 4 suitcases for the weekend, I see something new in her expression. Uncertainty. Tu is just trying to help, she stammers, the practiced confidence suddenly absent. I know. I smile placidly. And I want to make sure I get your help exactly right. She backs out of the kitchen without another word, and I save the brief recording. A small victory, but significant. The balance has shifted, just slightly. That night, I find Mark sitting on our bed, staring at his hands. His shoulders curve forward, making him look smaller than his 6-foot frame. I heard what she said to you, he says without looking up, about not deserving this family. The words hang between us. I'd been in the garden when Karen approached, unaware that Mark was on the patio within earshot. I've been so afraid of losing my mother that I couldn't see I was losing my wife, he continues, his voice cracking on the final word. I sit beside him, the mattress dipping under our combined weight. For a long moment, neither of us speaks. There's too much to say, and the words feel inadequate after months of silence. I miss us, I finally whisper. His hand finds mine, warm and solid. Not a solution, but a beginning. The next morning, I send out invitations for a family dinner. Martha and her husband, Mark's brother Lisa and his wife, my sister Elaine, the children's teacher Mrs. Winters, who has witnessed Karen's helpful interference at school, Pastor Williams, whose kind eyes see more than he lets on. I include a brief note. For support and truth. Saturday at 6. As I seal the last envelope, Karen appears in the doorway of my small home office, one of my opened invitations in her hand. What exactly are you planning? Her voice is sharp, suspicious. I meet her gaze without flinching. A family meeting about truth. Fear flickers across her face, quickly masked by indignation. Mark won't choose you over me, she says, her voice hardening. He never has. This isn't about choices. I continue addressing envelopes, my handwriting steady and clear. It's about consequences. She stands in the doorway a moment longer, then turns away. I hear her on the phone shortly after, her voice urgent as she speaks to someone about Nora's disturbing behavior and concerns about her stability. I slide the sealed invitations into my purse, a strange calm settling over me. The red recording light on my phone blinks steadily, capturing every word of her frantic call. Truth needs witnesses, and on Saturday it will have them. The dining room glows amber under the chandelier Mark installed for our 10th anniversary. Crystal glasses catch the light, throwing prisms across the walls. I've set the table with our wedding china, rarely used but perfect for tonight. The careful arrangement of each fork, each knife control in small things when larger matters feel so precarious. You've made quite a production of this dinner, Karen says, leaning against the doorframe. Her voice carries that note of dismissal I've come to recognize so well, though I can't imagine why Martha and the Williamsons needed to be included in a family discussion. I smooth the tablecloth, erasing an invisible wrinkle. It's not just family joining us. Emma's teacher will be here too. Karen's fingers tighten around her glass of water. Mrs. Abernathy, why on earth would you invite her? I look up, meeting her gaze directly. She had some concerns she wanted to discuss. I don't elaborate. Don't explain that Mrs. Abernathy called after Karen showed up at school to explain why Emma's science project was below her potential. I'm not feeling well, Karen announces suddenly. I think I'll need to excuse myself from dinner. That's unfortunate, I say, continuing to arrange fresh flowers in the centerpiece. Everyone's looking forward to seeing you. The doorbell chimes, and Karen's face tightens. She disappears upstairs, and I hear her urgent whispers through the heating vent calling Mark at work, no doubt. The words humiliate and ungrateful drift up from the floorboards. Martha arrives first, bearing a bottle of wine and knowing eyes. I brought reinforcements, she whispers, squeezing my arm. Both kinds. One by one they file in, Mark's brother David and his wife Jen, the Williamsons from next door, Mrs. Abernathy with her gray hair in a neat bun, Pastor Williams with his gentle smile. Each person who has witnessed Karen's behavior in some form small cruelties accumulated like interest on a debt long overdue. Mark arrives home to find the house full of guests. His eyes dart from face to face, confusion evident in the furrow between his brows. "What's all this?" he asks quietly when he finds me in the kitchen. "Truth," I answer simply, handing him a glass of water. His eyes search mine. "Mom called me at work, said you were trying to humiliate her." The question hangs unspoken between us. "Not humiliate," I correct gently. "Expose." The sound of Karen's heels on the stairs announces her entrance. She's changed into a blue dress I've never seen, her hair freshly styled, lipstick perfect. The grieving widow transformation complete. "I decided I simply couldn't miss this lovely gathering," she announces. Her smile stretches tight across her face, though I'm still feeling rather faint. Dinner begins with careful conversation weather, community events, the children's activities. Karen relaxes incrementally, believing the danger has passed. By the time I serve the pot roaster favorite, intentionally she's holding court about her volunteer work at church. "It's so important to give back," she's saying when I return from the kitchen with an extra serving dish, "especially when families are struggling with proper guidance." I place the dish carefully on the table. "Speaking of guidance, Karen, there's something I'd like to understand." The room quiets. Forks pause mid-air. The sudden silence amplifies the soft clink of ice against crystal as Karen takes a deliberate sip of water. "You've been making some concerning comments about our family," I continue, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. "I wonder if you'd be willing to explain them to everyone here." Karen's laugh tinkles like breaking glass. "I have no idea what you're talking about, Nora. Perhaps you're confused." Her eyes dart around the table, seeking allies and finding none. The confidence in her posture falters for just a moment before she straightens her shoulders. "This dinner was supposed to be about family unity," she says, voice rising with practiced distress. "And instead, Nora has turned it into some sort of interrogation. She's been recording me, invading my privacy." The accusation hangs in the air. I wait, letting the silence work for me rather than against me. Karen's throat bobs as she swallows, unprepared for my calm in the face of her storm. "Actually," Martha interjects, her southern accent thickening with purpose, "I heard you at the garden club last week. You said Nora was, and I quote, playing at being a mother without having the proper instincts for it." Karen's face drains of color. "I never." "You told me Emma was falling behind because of insufficient attention at home," Mrs. Abernathy adds quietly, "which is simply not true. Emma is thriving." Karen stands abruptly. This is an ambush, Mark. Are you going to allow this?" All eyes turn to Mark, who sits staring at his plate, knuckles white around his fork. "Is it true, Mom?" he asks, voice barely audible. "Of course not," Karen scoffs. "They're twisting my words." I stand and retrieve my laptop from the sideboard. "I think we should be clear about exactly what words were said." Karen's eyes widen with genuine fear for the first time. "You didn't." "I did. I open the laptop, turn it toward the table. I recorded your conversations when I wasn't home. That's illegal, Karen sputters. Not in Pennsylvania, with single-party consent for electronic recordings in your own home, David says. My brother-in-law, the attorney, nods at me. And given what you've been saying to my niece and nephew, I fully support Nora's decision. I press play, and Karen's voice fills the dining room. Your mother doesn't understand what a real family needs. She tries in her way, but some women just aren't meant to be mothers. Jacob's small voice follows. Doesn't Mom love us enough? Karen bolts for the door, but finds Mark standing in her path, his face a stone wall of realization. I think we should hear all of it, Mom, he says, his voice thick with emotion. I need to hear it. David clears his throat. She did the same thing to Dad, Mark. Remember how she'd tell him he couldn't manage without her? How she'd rearrange his study when he was at work, throw away things she decided weren't important. That was different, Karen hisses. It wasn't, David counters quietly. It's why I moved 3 states away. I connect my phone to our television screen, the harsh electronic blue casting shadows across Karen's suddenly pale face. There's more, I say, pressing play again. Karen's voice fills the room, crystal clear. Mark has always been too weak to make good decisions. It's why he needs me. Without me, this family would fall apart within weeks. Nora doesn't have what it takes to hold things together. Karen's mask slips completely. Her face contorts with a rage I've glimpsed only in fragments. You ungrateful, pathetic excuse for a son. After everything I've done. She stops, suddenly aware of her audience. The performance crumbles in real time. The carefully constructed facade of the doting mother-in-law and grandmother replaced by the woman I've known was there all along. Her hands tremble as she grips the back of a dining chair, knuckles white against the dark wood. The silence that follows feels like the aftermath of thunder, a heavy electricity lingering in the air. No one speaks as Karen retreats upstairs, the slam of the guest room door reverberating through the house. One by one, our guests speak quietly with me, offering support, confirmation, solidarity. Pastor Williams places a weathered hand on my shoulder. Boundaries are biblical, Nora. Never doubt that. Later, I find Mark sitting alone in the dark living room, head in his hands. I settle beside him, our shoulders barely touching. Tomorrow will be different, I say quietly. Above us, the unmistakable sound of a suitcase being dragged from the closet echoes through the ceiling. Mark reaches for my hand, and for the first time in months, I don't pull away. The morning light streams through our bedroom curtains, harsh and revealing after last night's dinner party exposures. I've barely slept, listening to Karen's movements in the guest room drawers opening and closing, the muffled sound of phone conversations well past midnight. My body feels hollowed out, as if I've survived some natural disaster and am surveying what remains. Mark sits on the edge of our bed, tying his shoes with mechanical precision. She's been up all night calling people. His voice carries an unfamiliar edge. Pastor Williams, my cousins, even my boss. I know. I slide my grandmother's silver locket around my neck, the one Karen once suggested I update with something more modern. Today, its weight against my skin feels like armor. From downstairs comes the sound of Karen's voice, the affected tremor perfected over decades. I catch fragments. Terrible misunderstanding, and at my age. And my poor son. Mark meets my eyes in the mirror. She's packing. Not leaving, I correct him. Positioning. The kitchen falls silent as we enter. Karen stands by the counter, suitcase positioned dramatically by the door, tissues clutched in one perfectly manicured hand. Her eyes are red-rimmed but dry. The performance is flawless. I can see I'm not wanted here. Her voice cracks on cue. My own son turning against me. Mark stiffens beside me, but doesn't rush to comfort her as he would have yesterday. The air between them has changed, charged with his new awareness. I have nowhere to go. Karen glances toward her suitcase. At my age. She reaches for her phone. I'll just call Pastor Williams about that senior housing he mentioned. I recognize the script, the crisis, the helplessness, the solution that requires Mark to rescue her. I've watched this play performed countless times, always with the same ending. Mark consoling, apologizing, surrendering. But today, Mark simply says, "Mom, please sit down, we need to talk." Karen's fingers freeze mid-dial, her eyes narrowing almost imperceptibly before the mask of vulnerability slides back into place. "Of course, dear, whatever you need." "Not just me." Mark's voice holds steady. "All of us. Family meeting in 10 minutes. Her gaze snaps to me, calculating. "I should freshen up first." 10 minutes, I repeat, the steady rhythm of my heart surprising me with its calmness. We'll be in the living room. Upstairs, I hear Emma and Jacob stirring. I climb the stairs, tapping gently on their doors. "Time to get up. We're having a family meeting downstairs." Emma appears, hair tousled, eyes wary. "Is Grandma leaving?" "We're going to talk about some changes," I say carefully. "All of us together." Jacob peeks around his door. "Is Grandma still mad about the recordings?" I kneel to his level. Grandma is feeling lots of things right now, but today isn't about her feelings. It's about our family and what we need to be happy and healthy. They follow me downstairs where Mark has arranged the furniture our family on one side of the room, a single chair across from us. The visual statement isn't subtle, but it's necessary. The united front wasn't my suggestion, but Mark's, a physical representation of the shift in our household. Karen enters precisely 10 minutes later, face freshly powdered, clothes impeccably pressed. Her practiced smile falters when she sees the arrangement. She hovers uncertainly before taking the single chair. "What's this about?" Her voice wavers between indignation and concern. I feel Mark take a breath beside me, but to my surprise, it's Emma who speaks first. "We made some rules, Grandma." Karen's head snaps toward my daughter, clearly not expecting this front. I place the folder containing printouts of texts, emails, and transcriptions from recordings on the coffee table between us. The evidence we've gathered exists in multiple places now, with Martha, with my sister, with Mark's brother, with Pastor Williams. "We've made some decisions as a family," I say, my voice steadier than I thought possible. "You have 3 options, Karen." Her spine straightens, the victim posture vanishing as she realizes the script has changed. "Options?" The word comes out sharp despite her attempt to soften it. "You can return to your own home with scheduled, respectful visits." I hold up one finger, then another. "You can move into the senior community Pastor Williams suggested." A third finger. "Or you can stay here, but with new boundaries that will be respected." Karen's mouth opens, the familiar storm of objections gathering, but I raise my hand. "Before you answer, you should know everything has been documented." I tap the folder. The church board, family members, neighbors, they've all received edited highlights of your behavior. Her face pales beneath the makeup. Your choice now determines what else they need to see. The room falls silent except for the ticking of the grandfather clock Karen once insisted we move to create better flow. Its rhythm measures the seconds as Karen's face cycles through emotions, disbelief, calculation, anger, and finally the realization that her usual tactics have lost their power. Mark leans forward. "Mom, I love you, but this stops now." "The way you talk about our mom isn't nice," Jacob adds, his small voice steady. "And you keep changing my homework," Emma says. "My teacher noticed." Karen's hands clutch her purse so tightly her knuckles whiten. "Fine," she says finally. "I'll go back to my house, since I'm clearly not appreciated here." "We'll help you move tomorrow," I say before she can dictate terms. "Visits will resume in 1 month." "A month?" Karen's voice rises. Those visits will end immediately if the behavior returns." I continue calmly. The finality in my tone silences her. For perhaps the first time in her life, Karen Stevens has no ready response. Mark's brother arrives an hour later to help with Karen's things. As they load the car, I feel neither triumph nor guilt, but a quiet certainty that we've done what was necessary. Mark turns to me in the driveway after Karen leaves. "I should have seen it years ago. I'm sorry." The children wrap their arms around my waist, forming a circle that feels like healing beginning. Only later, clearing dishes from lunch, do I notice the folded paper on the kitchen counter. Karen's handwriting, elegant and precise. "This isn't over." I crumple the note, dropping it into the trash with the day's other discards. Yes, it is. The November sun spills across our backyard, painting the fallen leaves in amber and gold. From my spot on the porch, I watch Mark tending the grill while Emma and Jacob help arrange the Thanksgiving table settings. There's an ease to their movements, a natural rhythm that had disappeared during those dark months with Karen. 6 months. Half a year since she moved back to her own home with clear boundaries in place. The transformation feels almost miraculous. "Need a refill?" Martha appears beside me with a steaming pot of coffee. "Thanks." I hold out my mug, breathing in the rich aroma. Hard to believe where we were this time last year. Martha settles into the chair beside me. "You fought for what mattered, Nora. Not many have that courage." Inside, the dining room glows with traditional Thanksgiving warmth, the rich burgundy tablecloth, golden candles, and the centerpiece Emma crafted at school. Through the window, I catch sight of Karen arranging the dessert she brought precisely according to the boundaries we established. She's allowed to contribute, but not take over. She can visit, but not dictate. She can love her grandchildren, but not undermine their mother. The doorbell chimes, and I rise to welcome Mark's brother and his family. The house fills with genuine laughter, not the tense, walking on eggshells kind that had become our norm, but the authentic joy of people who feel safe with each other. "Nora." Karen's voice behind me carries that familiar note of criticism. "The tablecloth has a stain near the corner." I turn, meeting her eyes directly. The silence between us speaks volumes. She remembers our agreement, sees my unwavering gaze, and something shifts in her expression. "I brought a lovely fall centerpiece that might draw attention away from it," she amends, her tone softening. "Thank you, Karen. I'll consider it." My voice remains warm but firm. Emma appears at my side, 12 going on 20 in her quiet confidence. "Grandma, I already made a centerpiece for the table. Would you like to see it?" I catch the flash of irritation in Karen's eyes, quickly masked with a smile. 6 months ago, this interaction would have ended with Emma doubting her creation and me fuming in silence. Now my daughter stands tall, secure in her contribution. "Of course, darling." Karen follows Emma, her centerpiece still clutched in her hands. Jacob bounces in from the backyard, cheeks flushed with cold and excitement. "Mom, Dad's letting me flip the burgers." "Wonderful." I tousle his hair. "Just be careful near the flame." "I know." He rolls his eyes. The gesture so perfectly 8-year-old that I laugh. "We talked about fire safety in therapy, remember?" The children's counseling sessions were Mark's idea, one of many healthy decisions he's made since we established boundaries with his mother. "Safety isn't just about fire," he'd said. "It's about them feeling secure in their own home." In the kitchen, I find Mark's brother Dan organizing drinks. "The kids seem great," he says quietly. "A lot different from last Thanksgiving." Last Thanksgiving, when Karen criticized every dish, rearranged my table settings, and told Emma her handmade place cards were sweet but amateurish. When Jacob asked why Grandma was always mad at Mommy. When Mark had stood silent, caught between wife and mother. Counseling has helped. I arrange glasses on a tray. All of us needed to process what happened. "I should have spoken up sooner," Dan admits. "Mom did the same thing to Dad all those years." Before I can respond, Mark calls everyone to the table. The meal unfolds with an ease that still surprises me after years of tension. When Karen begins to comment on my stuffing recipe, Mark catches her eye and she smoothly pivots to discussing the weather. The subtle exchange happens without drama, just the quiet enforcement of boundaries we've all learned to maintain. After dessert, Emma pulls out the family album she's been working on for a school project. "It's about family traditions," she explains, flipping pages that show holidays, birthdays, ordinary moments captured in photographs. "That's not how we did Thanksgiving when Mark was little," Karen begins, the familiar criticism creeping back. "In our family." "This is how we do it in our family now, Grandma," Emma says with gentle confidence. "I'm showing our traditions." Karen blinks, startled by this new Emma who speaks her mind without fear. I see the moment she decides not to push, the careful recalibration. "Well, families evolve, don't they?" she offers, glancing at me. I nod, allowing this moment of grace between us. Later, after Jacob insists on showing Karen his science project, no longer seeking her approval but confidently sharing his accomplishment, guests begin to depart. Mark walks his mother to her car, their conversation low and private in the driveway. In the quiet aftermath, I find myself in our bedroom, drawn to the bottom dresser drawer where I'd tucked away my journal from those dark months. The leather cover feels weathered under my fingers as I open it, scanning entries that chronicle a pain that now feels distant but instructive. The last entry, written the night before our family confrontation: "How much more am I supposed to endure?" I close the journal, feeling the weight of that question and the journey to its answer. Not simply an ending, but a transformation. That evening, after the children are asleep, Mark and I sit on the porch swing, sharing the comfortable silence we've rediscovered through months of counseling. "Mom actually thanked me today," he says, his hand finding mine in the darkness, "for setting boundaries with her. Can you believe it?" "What did she say exactly?" "That she never realized how much her helping was hurting us." He sighs. "I don't know if she really understands, but at least she's trying." The swing creaks gently beneath us, a soothing rhythm. My thoughts drift to the support group I started at church 3 months ago. 6 women, all navigating difficult family relationships, all finding their voices after years of silence. "Your group has another new member?" Mark asks. 2, actually. Martha's sister and someone from Jacob's school. I lean into his shoulder. It helps, sharing what we learned the hard way. "Do you think she's changed?" Mark asks suddenly, gazing toward his mother's departing headlights. I consider this, watching the last light fade from the horizon. "No," I finally answer, "but we have." Mark nods slowly. "That's the real victory, isn't it? Not changing her, but changing how we respond to her." Inside, the phone rings. Mark tenses, slight old habits die hard, but I remain relaxed. "Probably your mother calling to thank us for dinner," I say without concern. "And if she starts in about how you overcooked the turkey?" I smile into the gathering darkness. "Then I'll thank her for her opinion and change the subject. Some battles aren't worth fighting anymore." The peace we've found isn't the absence of conflict, but the presence of wisdom. Karen hasn't changed her nature, but she's learned to operate within our boundaries. We've stopped expecting her to become someone she's not, and instead created the family environment we want despite her limitations. As we rock gently under the first emerging stars, I realize the true gift of this journey. Not just reclaiming our home, but rediscovering ourselves in the process.